Hello all, welcome to the new lecture of differential equations. In this lecture, we mainly discuss the relation between the linear independence and Wronskian, and also the section 3.4 where the complex conjugate roots for homogeneous second order differential equation with a constant coefficients. So first of all, we will discuss the linear independence and Wronskian definition. Two functions f and g are said to be linearly independent on an interval I if there exists two constants k1 and k2, not both zero, such that k1 f1t plus k2 f2t equal to 0 for all t belongs to I. Actually, this is the definition of linear dependence. So, two functions f and g are said to be linearly dependent on an interval I if there exists two constants k1 and k2, not both 0, such that their linear combination equals 0. We know that linear dependence, we have already stated or defined the linear dependence in another way, that is, if the ratio of the two functions is a constant, then it is said to be linearly dependent. This is some other definition or defining the same thing in some different manner. Okay. So if the linear combination becomes 0 in such a way that either one of them is non-zero, then also we can say that this the functions f and g are f and g are linearly dependent. If they are not linearly dependent, then it is said to be linearly independent. Or f and g are linearly independent if and only if the linear combination equals 0, then if and only if all the constants k1, k2 equal to 0. Actually, this is the definition we are using in vector spaces also. So two vectors are said to be linearly independent if k1 into some alpha plus k2 into beta is equal to 0 if and only if the constants k1 equal to k2 equal to 0. So the expression becomes 0 only if the constants equal to 0. Then we can say that f and g are linearly independent, or the ratio f by g is not a constant. That way also we can say like that. For example, consider the functions f of t equal to sin t and g of t equal to cos of t minus pi by 2. We can see that these are linearly dependent because for proving linear dependence, one method is write the expression and prove that this becomes 0 even though for non-zero values of at least k1 or k2 or both. Or we can say prove that f by g or g by f is a constant. So I'm taking first g of t. G of t we know cos of pi by 2 minus t. We know that cos of minus x is cos x. So we can write this as cos of, sorry, it is given that cos of t minus pi by 2. We can write it as cos of pi by 2 minus t. Then by definition, pi by 2 minus t lies in the first quadrant, and in first quadrant cos of pi by 2 minus theta will be sine theta. So g of t is equal to sine t, and sine t, that is the actually f of t. So we have actually g of t is the function f of t itself, or g by f is equal to 1. So or g of t equal to 1 into f of t. So we can say that g and f are linearly dependent. Or in the linear combination method, write k1 into sin t plus k2 into cos t minus pi by 2. If we take k1 as 1 and k2 as minus 1, we will have sin t minus cos of t minus pi by 2. And cos of t minus pi by 2 is nothing other than sin t. So this will be sin t minus sin t, then we will get as 0 even though the constants k1 and k2 are non-zero. So this means that the two functions are not linearly independent or linearly dependent. Now there is a theorem which relates the linear independence and Wronskian of two functions. If f and g are differentiable functions on an open interval I, and if a Wronskian of f comma g at t naught not equal to 0 for some point t naught in I, then f and g are linearly independent on I. That means there are two functions which are differentiable such that Wronskian at a point inside an open interval I where f and g is differentiable is non-zero. Then we can say that f and g are linearly independent throughout I. Moreover, if f and g are linearly dependent, if f and g are linearly dependent, then their Wronskian equal to 0 for every t in I. So if the Wronskian equal to 0 for every t in I, we can say that they are linearly dependent. If there are some points inside the interval at which the Wronskian is not 0, and if f and g are differentiable functions, then it is said to be linearly independent on I. This is about the relation between the linear independence or linear dependence and the Wronskian of any functions. Now we concentrate on the functions which are the solutions of the second order homogeneous differential equations. Okay, this is theorem 1 for any two functions, any two differentiable functions f and g. Now we are concentrating or we are stating the result for solutions of second order homogeneous differential equation. So the statement is like this. Theorem 2. Let y1 and y2 be the solutions of the second order homogeneous equation that is in the form y double dash plus p of t y dash plus q of t in E or Ly equal to 0, where we know p and q are continuous functions on an open interval I. Then y1 and y2, the two solutions of the equation Ly equal to 0 are linearly dependent on I if and only if the Wronskian is 0 for all t belongs to I. So linearly dependent if and only linearly dependent if and only if the Wronskian equal to 0 for all t in I. Alternatively, y1 and y2 are linearly independent if and only if the Wronskian is never 0. Wronskian is never 0 in I. So linearly independent means it should be Wronskian is never 0 in I. So but looking for the two the theorem or result on theorem 1, the difference is that for any two functions to be linearly independent, there may be there may exist some points in t naught in I such that in for that points Wronskian is non-zero, then they are said to be linearly independent on that interval. But when we talk about the solutions of the second order homogeneous equation, we can say that the two solutions y1 and y2 are linearly independent if and only if the Wronskian is never 0. Never 0 in, there will not be any point at which the Wronskian is 0. So for the second order solution of homogeneous equations, for two solutions to be or for two functions to be solution of the second order homogeneous equation, the thing is that their Wronskian is never 0 throughout the interval where the function is defined, where the differential equation is defined. So Wronskian and linear independence of solutions. There are So the Wronskian and linear independence of solutions of Ly equal to 0 where P and Q are continuous on I. First, suppose that y1 and y2 are two solutions of equation 1. Then the following are equivalent. All the properties are equivalent. First one is the functions y1 and y2 form a fundamental set of solutions on I. We know that this will form a fundamental set of solutions if and only if they are linearly dependent on I. So y1 and y2 form fundamental set means y1 and y2 are linearly independent on I. If they are linearly independent, then the Wronskian at any point is not equal to 0. So in particular, Wronskian at t naught is not equal to 0 for some t naught belong to I, and also Wronskian for not equal to 0 for all t belongs to I. So if we are talking about the solutions, two solutions of the homogeneous equation 1, then all the four statements are equivalent. Now we move to some problem. Determine whether the given functions are linearly independent or linearly dependent. Actually, we have two methods, or in two ways we can do this. First of all, try to find if one of them is a linear combination or multiple of the other, then it is linearly dependent. Or we can say that the expression of the form k1f plus k2g equals 0, even though at least one of them is non-zero. Then also we can say that it is linearly dependent. If this is not the case, we can say that the two functions are linearly independent. First of all, we take the simple examples of equation number 1. F of x is equal to e raised to 3x and g of x equal to e raised to 3 into x minus 1. So f by g is equal to e raised to 3x by e raised to 3x minus 3. That is e raised to 3x by e raised to 3x into e raised to minus 3. E raised to 3x is common, so we get e cube. E cube means it is a constant, where e is the Euler constant. So e cube is also a constant. Therefore, f by g we got it as a constant. So f and g are linearly dependent. Or if we choose k1 this plus k2 into e raised to this equal to 0, then by making some commons, then we can write this expression as k1 plus k2 by e cube into e raised to 3x equals 0. Since e raised to 3x being exponential function, this implies that k1 plus k2 by 3 equals 0, or k1 is equal to minus k2 by 1 by 3. So if we choose k1 as 1 and sorry, k2 as 1 and k1 as minus 1 by e cube, then we have k1 f plus k2 g equals 0 without k1 and k2 non-zero. So also we can say this also implies that two functions are linearly dependent. Now suppose if the Wronskian is given as t into or t square sine t. Let the Wronskian of two functions is f and g is t square sine t. Then what can we say about the linear independence or dependence? We know that Wronskian this equals 0 if either t equal to 0 or t equal to n pi, isn't it? So all the t equal to n pi includes t equal to 0 also. So we can say that this is equals, the Wronskian becomes 0. Wronskian becomes 0 if for t equal to n pi, that is plus 0 plus or minus pi plus or minus 2 pi, etc. Since it is a product of t square and sine t. So even though we don't know which are the functions, we can say that this there are points in between where the Wronskian not equal to 0. So 0, pi, 2 pi, here minus pi, minus 2 pi, etc. So at these points, the Wronskian is equal to 0, but in between there are so many points at which Wronskian not equal to 0. So there exists at least one point, or there are points t naught such that w at t naught is not equal to 0. W at t naught, what is the value? W at T naught is equal to T naught square sine T naught. So this is non-zero. So we can say that there are points which are at which the Wronskian is non-zero. So by the first theorem, we have stated that the first theorem, if W of f of g at t naught not equal to 0 for some point t naught in I, then f and g are linearly independent on I. So wherever the interval is considered, then we can say that in that interval, the Wronskian is, since there are points at which the Wronskian non-zero, the two functions are linearly independent. Okay, this is because the two functions are we know the two functions, and it is not given that they are the solutions of some homogeneous differential equation. If they are some solutions of some differential equation, then this will not be the case. Okay. Now we discuss the section 3.4, that is complex roots of the characteristic equation. We have already discussed about the solution of homogeneous equations with constant coefficients. We have already stated all its nature of roots, and we discussed in detail when the two roots are real and distinct. Now we are considering equations for which the characteristic equation exists has complex roots. We know if the two roots are real and distinct, we have already seen that y1 equal to e raised to lambda 1t and y2 equal to e raised to lambda 2t will be the solution to linearly independent solution or fundamental set of solution. C1 y1 plus C2 y2 will make the general solution. So if the roots are complex conjugates, then we have lambda 1 is equal to some p plus iq and lambda 2 equal to p minus iq. Then y1 of t equal to e raised to p plus iq into t and y2 of t equal to e raised to p minus iq into t are two solutions of equation 1. But we know that by the principle of superposition for homogeneous equations, if we know two solutions, any possible linear combination will also be a solution for any value, for any arbitrary values c1 and c2. So since the taking y1 as e raised to p plus iqt and y2 as e raised to p minus iqt is something very difficult. We are trying to take some solutions which is written in some simple form. For that, we are considering. We know that C1 y1 plus C2 y2 will also be a solution for the corresponding equation for any value of C1 and C2. So first of all, we take the sum y1 plus y2. Then by definition, it is e raised to p plus iqt plus e raised to p minus iqt. And we know the Euler's formula, that is e raised to I theta is equal to cos theta plus I sin theta, and e raised to minus I theta is cos theta minus I sin theta. So we expand the exponential. It is of the form e raised to pt. First one will be e raised to pt into e raised to I qt. So expanding that using Euler formula, we have e raised to pt cos qt plus I sin qt plus e raised to pt into, now this is e raised to minus I qt. Expanding that, we will get cos qt minus I sin qt. So adding the sine term will get cancelled. Then we will get 2 into e raised to pt cos qt, or half into, taking these 2 into the left side, we have 1 by 2 y1 plus 1 by 2 y2 is equal to e raised to pt cos qt. Now if we take the difference y1 minus y2 and divide it by 2i, the constant 2i, then we have, by making the calculations and simplifications, we get 1 by 2i y1 minus y2 is equal to e raised to pt into sin qt. So these are also solutions of the same differential equation. So for So it is quite easy that uh, before by taking this as the new solutions instead of taking e raised to p plus iqt and e raised to p minus of iqt like that. So we are considering the two solutions as y1 as e raised to pt cos qt and y2 as e raised to pt sin qt. The reason is that by principle of superposition it is possible. So we are taking some simple solutions, and we can see that the Wronskian of these two solutions w of y1 y2 is also not equal to 0. Verify this. So this will form a fundamental set of solution, and hence using this we can write the general solution as C1 y1 plus C2 y2, or e raised to pt is common. So we can write the general solution as e raised to pt into C1 cos qt plus C2 sin qt. So if the auxiliary equation a lambda square plus b lambda plus c equal to 0 has complex conjugates, then the two solutions we are taking as y of t equal to e raised to pt cos qt and y2 of t as e raised to pt sin qt, where p and q are lambda, the root lambda is p plus iq. So p is the real part of lambda and q is the imaginary part of lambda. Now we try to do the problems related to this. Find the general solution of y double dash plus 9y equal to 0. Now the corresponding characteristic equation is lambda square plus replace y double dash by lambda square and y dash by lambda. So here there is no term containing y dash. So lambda in the auxiliary equation the coefficient of lambda is 0. So we have the equation as lambda square plus 9 equal to 0. Now lambda, or the in one way we can factorize lambda square plus 9 as lambda plus 3i into lambda minus 3i equal to 0. So in one way we can write this, and from this it is clear that lambda equal to plus or minus 3i, or by direct method using the formula we have lambda is equal to minus b is 0 plus or minus root of b square. B square is 0 minus 4ac, that is 4 into 9 by 2, which is equal to plus or minus 6i by 2, that is plus or minus 3i. So we take lambda as p plus iq is equal to 3i. So p is, that means the roots are complex roots and occur in complex conjugate pairs. So if one root is 3i, other is minus 3i. So we take p plus iq is one of them as 3i. So P is the real part of this complex number, that is 0, and Q is the imaginary part, that is equal to 3. So P equal to 0, Q equal to 3. And we know from the equations, from the result, we know that if P plus IQ is a complex number, then Y of t equal to e raised to pt cos qt and Y of t equal to e raised to pt sin t are the two fundamental set of solutions. So we have the two solutions. E raised to pt is a 0, e raised to 0t, that is 1. So y1 of t equal to cos 3t, y2 of t equal to sin 3t are the two solutions of 1. Therefore the general solution is c1 cos 3t plus c2 sin 3t. So this, in this method we can solve, in this way we can solve all the problems for which the auxiliary equation has complex roots. Second equation, find the general solution of y double dash plus y equal to 0. The corresponding characteristic equation is lambda square plus lambda plus 1 equal to 0. Then this root is obtained by lambda equal to minus b minus 1 plus or minus root of 1 minus 4 by 2, that is minus 1 plus or minus I root 3 by 2. So we can take p plus iq as minus 1 by 2 plus I root 3 by 2, that is p is equal to minus 1 by 2 q equal to root 3 by 2. Now the two solutions of equation 1 are e raised to pt, e raised to minus t by 2 cos root 3 by 2 t, and y2 of t is e raised to minus t by 2 sin root 3 by 2 t. So the general solution is C1 into e raised to minus t by 2 cos root 3 by 2t plus C2 into e raised to minus t by 2 sin root 3 by 2t. That is y of t is equal to e raised to minus t by 2 C1 into cos root 3 by 2t plus C2 into sin root 3 by 2t. Now we move to the next problem. Find the solution of the initial value problem 16y double dash minus 8y dash plus 145y equal to 0 such that y of 0 equal to minus 2, y dash 0 equal to 1. The characteristic equation is 16 lambda square minus 8 lambda plus 145 equal to 0. So by calculating the roots, we get lambda is equal to 1 by 4 plus or minus I3. So P equal to 1 by 4, Q equal to 3. So we have the corresponding root y of t is e raised to t by 4 c1 cos 3t plus c2 sin 3t. Now put it as equation number 2. Given that y of 0 is minus 2 and substituting that one in this equation we have minus 2 is equal to in the right side put t equal to 0. So c1 into cos 0 is 1. So c1 plus c2 into sin 0 is 0. So c1 we obtain it as minus 2. Then y dash t. So in order to apply the second condition, we have to find the derivative of the solution. So y dash t, when we calculate y dash t, we will get this as in this equation. Now y dash, now apply the value y dash of 0 equal to 1. Then we have 1 is equal to c1 into 1 by 4 plus C2 into 3 into 1. That is C1 by 4 plus 3C2 equal to 1. And we have C1 we already calculated as minus 2. So applying that value we get C2 is equal to 1 by 2. Therefore the solution y of t is equal to e raised to t by 4 into C1 is minus 2. Therefore minus 2 cos 3t plus 1 by 2 sine 3t. So this is the required solution of the IVP. Now we move to the exercise part of exercise 3.4. Okay. Express the given expressions in the form a plus ib. So e raised to 1 plus 2i. We can so first of all I'm taking the second one, leaving first one as exercise. So second one e raised to I pi. We know by Euler formula e raised to I theta is equal to cos theta plus I sin theta. Apply that formula. So e raised to I theta, I pi is cos pi plus I into sin pi. Sin pi is 0, cos pi is minus 1. So we have in the complex e raised to I pi is the complex number minus 1. Now 2 raised to 1 minus I. So first of all, we have to write this as an exponential. So we can write this as e raised to log of 2 raised to 1 minus I. So we can write this as e raised to log of 2 raised to 1 minus I like this. So e raised to log of x raised to a. We have a into log x. Now apply that result. So this will be e raised to 1 minus I into log 2. Now expanding the power, we have e raised to log 2 minus I log 2. Then e raised to log 2. Okay, so e raised to log 2 into e raised to log 2 into e raised to minus I log 2 will come. E raised to minus I log 2 is expanded as cos log 2 minus I sin log 2. So the corresponding complex number is e raised to log 2 cos log 2 minus I into e raised to log 2 sin log 2. Now, this in the same way, you can prove the other two. E raised to 1 plus 2i and pi raised to minus 1 plus i. Pi raised to 1 minus 1 plus 2i, we can write it as e raised to log pi raised to minus 1 plus 2i. So this is equal to e raised to minus 1 plus 2i into log pi. So e raised to minus log pi plus I into 2 log pi. So we can write it as e raised to minus log pi into e raised to I 2 log pi or log of pi square like that. Then expand using Euler formula. We will write the corresponding complex number. Now the second, find the general solution of the following differential equations. These all you will get the auxiliary root of the auxiliary equation will be in the complex roots will be complex roots, and using the correct simple calculations you can find the lambda root lambda, then identify p and q, then put it in the standard formula for finding the solutions and then find the general solution. Now the last one, consider the IVP y double dash plus 2y dash plus 6y equal to 0. Y of 0 is 2, y dash 0 equal to alpha, which is greater than or equal to 0. First problem is find the solution y of t for of this problem, and B, find alpha so that y is equal to 0 when t equal to 1. So first of all we have to solve the IVP. So given equation is y double dash plus 2y dash plus 6y equal to 0, writing the auxiliary equation, then finding the roots we obtain. The roots are complex conjugates. P plus iq is minus 1 plus I root to 5. So P equal to minus 1, Q equal to root to 5. Then using the standard formula we have y of t is equal to, the general solution is y of t equal to e raised to minus t c1 cos root to 5t plus c2 sin root to 5t. Now this is an initial value problem. So we have to apply the given values y of 0 equal to 2. So applying y of 0 equal to 2, in the right side we have cos equal to cos 0 is 1, sin 0 is 0. So we will get c1 as 2. And for applying the second initial condition, we have to find the derivative of equation number 2. So taking the derivative and applying the value y dash 0 equal to alpha, we will obtain alpha as c1 into minus 1 plus c2 into root of 5. Or now substitute c1 equal to 2 here. So we will get c2 as alpha plus 2 by root 5 and c1 as 2. Now substitute these in the general solution. Y of t equal to e raised to minus t 2 cos root 5t plus alpha plus 2 by root 5 sin root 5t. So this is the required solution of the corresponding IVP. Now the second problem, second part, y equal to 0 when t equal to 1. That is y of 1 equal to 0. Apply that in this given in the required solution. So we will have y of t equal to 0. So 0 is equal to e raised to minus 1 2 cos root to 5 plus e raised to minus 1 alpha plus 2 by root 5 into sin root 5, or alpha plus 2 by root 5 sin root 5 equal to minus 2 cos root 5, since 1 by e is a constant not equal to 0. So we have alpha plus 2 is equal to minus 2 root 5 cos root 5 by sin root 5, or 1 by tan root 5. So again making some arrangements, we can write we will get alpha as minus 2 root 5 by tan root 5. So this is the value of alpha. Now the next problem, show that the Wronskian of e raised to lambda t cos mu t and e raised to lambda t sin mu t is equal to mu into e raised to 2 lambda t. This is very simple. We know that by definition the Wronskian is equal to e raised to lambda t cos mu t, e raised to lambda t sin mu t. Then write the derivative d by dt of e raised to lambda t cos mu t d by dt of e raised to lambda t sin mu t. And for finding the derivative in the second row, you have to apply the product rule of differentiation. Then find the determinant. Then you will get the determinant as mu into e raised to 2 lambda t. So up to this, the section 3.3 and section 3.4 is over. Up to this, we have already discussed the solution of a second order homogeneous differential equation with the constant coefficients, for which the the roots of the auxiliary equations are real and distinct and complex conjugates. Now the remaining thing is auxiliary equation has real equal roots or double roots, that we will discuss in the next section. Okay, now let's stop here. Thank you. Thank you all.